Hello my friends, you've tuned to Buck Weezer, Buck Small Engine DIY on the YouTube. Welcome back to the shop, and today I'm taking a look at this CUB Cadet zero-turn mower, the Ultima ZT2, featuring the 60-inch cutting deck. Now I just replaced a deck blade for the owner of this machine on his other zero-turn, a Toro time cutter. He says he's got 5 acres, and so now he got his wife mowing the lawn once again with the new deck belt, so he decided to bring me this one, which is not running. And he gave me something of a story, but you never know what the real story is. He says it hasn't run in 5 months. So I've been making some initial observations. I got the Kawasaki V-twin set up there, and let's talk about some things we need to do. First of all, the spark plug wire broke. He said he was going to change his spark plugs. The wire broke. He doesn't have the connector or the boot, so we're going to have to fix that as a first matter of business, just to get sparkage. I then observed, messing here with the carburetor, these linkages, the throttle and the choke, are just stiff. Just totally stiff. Now I don't know how that happens just sitting for 5 months. Maybe it's been sitting longer than that. I don't really know. There's a battery that I'm charging now. I don't know if it's going to hold the charge, but all in all, it doesn't look to be in terrible shape. But it does need some TLC to get it back going again. You know, all these fuel lines and stuff are like blackened. Like, look at this fuel filter. You know, just nasty black stuff. Are they deteriorating, dry rotting? What's up with that? The engine doesn't look too dirty. I mean, I don't see any obvious oil leaks or anything like that. So hopefully we'll be able to get it running without too much trouble. But the strangest thing about this mower are these wheels. There's the original wheel and tire. But when you come over to this side, it's been replaced with another tire which is obviously different and obviously smaller, and it's only being held on with two lug nuts. This looks like a tire off of a golf cart. And the guy told me that he couldn't find the right tire that he needed, so he just slapped this on. And I was trying to explain to him that when it comes to zero turns, you know, it's really essential for the proper operation of the mower that the two tires in the back be the same exact size and inflated to the same amount of pressure. So I gotta try and figure out something for him. And you know, I think he's right. It's hard to find this size tire. I haven't looked into it too deeply, but this is a 20 by 12-8. And I just haven't seen that. I did go to like Tractor Supply, which is probably where he picked up that golf cart tire. But it's I gotta find a wheel and tire to match this guy. Otherwise, it's going to be off. You just can't do it this way. So I thought maybe we could have some fun together trying to get this going, and we'll see what we're going to do. So I think I'm going to start fixing this spark plug wire. That'll be our first task. All right, so I'm hoping that we still have enough length of the cable. I don't know how it broke. I've already trimmed it back, so there's our conductor coming up the middle. It just broke off on him. It's a clean break, or that's what he says. And I think it's still going to be long enough here. I bought on Amazon this ratcheting spark plug terminal crimp tool, and it came with a set of different connectors and boots. So I'm going to try this out for the first time. I was thinking maybe I should practice on something first. But I couldn't find anything to practice on, so let's just see if we can do this. Alright, so I'm going to put that in a tool. bend the conductor back. We're going to slide it in. Just like that. And there it is. Wow, that was easy. That was really easy. I love that. Now I've got the boot. I'm going to slide the boot on. And we're going to use some dielectric grease to serve as our lubricant here at the opening of the boot. And hopefully this will there you go. That looks pretty good. That looks really good. And it looks like it's gonna be long enough. See, I'm touching these hoses. Fuel tank vent, fuel line, getting all dirty. What is that mess? All right, that's good. That was way easier than I expected. We'll be able to get that in. And let's see if our battery's charged up. What we'll try to do is maybe some starting fluid down the intake here straight into the carburetor and see if it wants to fire on that. So stay tuned. All right, I sat down in the seat here. I just wanted to, I removed the spark plugs and I just wanted to crank the engine and see it spin. Turn the key. Looks like 181 hours. And then to crank, nothing. It just clicks. I think these are supposed to be out, right? But the click I hear is not coming from the solenoid, which is down below the seat. It's coming from in here. Some click in here. When I pull the electric PTO, I can hear it engage. But we're not getting any juice down to the starter or to the solenoid or something. So I'm gonna have to look up a diagram or something and see how it's supposed to happen. See. So I can start troubleshooting why it doesn't start. There's a little click under the key switch here. Yeah. So that's where we're at right now. Alright, so down here at the solenoid and the battery, I unplugged the line coming from this key switch that would bring 12 volts right to this tab to activate the starter solenoid. So what if we just take a little jumper lead from the battery positive and touch it down here to this terminal to see if the solenoid engages in the engine and starter operates. And nothing. I can hear it clicking. I do hear the solenoid clicking. But the starter doesn't turn at all. I don't know if the starter's locked up. That'll be the next thing to look into. Let's just test this battery with my King Bolin battery tester. This looks like a 230 cold cranking amps. We'll check the battery. It's a 12 volt battery. We'll do a quick test. In vehicle battery test. Engine's off. Regular flooded battery. It's cold cranking amps. And we'll scroll down to, what was it, 230? That seems to be a small battery for this thing, but alright. Alright, it's just a bad battery. So I think we got to change it out before going any further. Let's just quickly verify the functionality of the starter by using a cable, a jumper cable, directly from the starter to the positive terminal of the battery. Just see if the starter spins. And it does. So that should not seem to be the problem. I think we're going to have to hone in on that starter solenoid as the culprit. Alright, so one last test here. I got my 12 volt test hooked up to battery negative, and then I have a helper sitting in the seat. She's going to turn the key, and we're going to see if the test light lights up, if we're getting voltage here at the starter. Alright, helper. Nothing, huh? And we're not. So I can hear that starter. I can hear the starter clicking, but it's not. I mean the starter solenoid clicking, but it's not. It's not working. So I think that's where we need to turn our attention. I just wanted to test this solenoid here on a workbench. So we're going to apply negative and positive battery power to it, and at which time we should have continuity between these two lugs. So you'll see that should beep like that if we have continuity. So go ahead and apply the 12 volts. All right, and we just don't. Okay, try again. Let go. Again. Okay, so it's just bad. The solenoid's bad. That's probably why the gentleman put the mower aside and hasn't been able to fix it. So I don't know if I have one of these. We're going to look, and we'll have to replace it if I don't have one. Okay, so I found in my stash of stuff a used starter solenoid, and I'm going to buy a new one for this guy, but I slapped it on just so we could continue with our diagnosis. I think we're ready to see if this thing's going to crank. The borrowed battery that I put in there is also bad, so it's sort of like I'm working against myself here on many levels, but I played around with the throttle lever that was stuck and the choke lever that was stuck, and they're moving better now. There is fuel. We'll see if it's going to start and run for us. We're going to try. Hopefully we have enough battery power to crank it, but we'll see. I'm going to try some starting fluid. And then we'll have our assistant crank it for us. Or actually, she can just sit there and I'll crank it. Cranks, so we got the starter solenoid issue figured out. Sounded like it wanted to go there. There's victory. You can hear our battery struggling, dying. So it ran on starting fluid. I may have to try a little bit more of that to see if it's going to pull any fuel from the tank into this carburetor. The way that these were kind of the linkages are kind of frozen is making me think that we may have to take that carburetor apart and clean it out. It's running a little bit, only on the starting fluid. And that's all we can do for now. But I think we're on the right track to getting this back up and running, and we'll take the carburetor apart as my next step if we can't, with a charged battery, get it to run on its own gasoline. But we are definitely making progress. Alright guys, an update on the CUB Cadet Zero Turn. Nico's shop cat wants this thing back up and running, don't you, buddy? Oh yeah. So I've been taking care of a few things that we've already talked about. There's our new battery. I'm still waiting on the arrival of the new starter solenoid we had diagnosed to be bad. I've put in new spark plugs. We've changed the oil and the oil filter. Got a new air cleaner here. So I think the next thing for us to do while waiting on that other stuff is we got to go through this carburetor, because as you know, it runs on starting fluid, but it's not sucking fuel through that carburetor. So I don't think it's going to be too much of a chore to take this down. I got to disconnect the fuel tank vent, the fuel line, breather tube for the crankcase breather. We'll have to disconnect the anti-backfire solenoid here at the base. And pay attention to the linkages, and should come down pretty easily. And then I think I just need to give it a thorough cleaning so this thing will work well again. So that's next, and let's get moving. You want to see something funny? So I got the carburetor just about to come off. Just got to slide it out. Oh no. It hits the frame of the tractor. I'm like a 1/4 inch too short. Oh brother. Well, I think what I'm going to do is just loosen the 2 bolts here for the intake manifold and the 2 bolts here, and that will allow the just to let the manifold just pivot down a little bit, and then I'll have clearance, because I almost got it. Almost, but not quite. Ah, well, no big deal. Well, here's a peek inside that carburetor. I was correct. It's going to take some going through, because that is an absolute mess. You see that? That's what came out of that bowl. So it was sitting for 5 months. Does that happen in 5 months' time? I don't know. What a stinking mess. It became clear to me within minutes that there was no way we were going to salvage and clean out that deteriorated carburetor, and we just needed to replace it. So Amazon to the rescue with some nice aftermarket parts, and hopefully it'll work out okay. But yeah, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So got a new gasket. I'm going to slide the parts on, and then I'm going to reconnect our intake manifold, because you remember I had loosened it because we needed just a little more clearance here. So that's on. Let's see, this gasket's going to go on like that. And this little intake pipe. This I salvaged. This, doesn't come with the carburetor. Alright, so now that we're all on, I'm going to put that come on. I'm going to tighten down this intake. Not a lot of room for fingers. No idea torque spec on that. They weren't that tight to begin with, I recall from taking it off. There, so that's how we do that. So I'm going to mess around with the linkages here, fuel line, breather tube, and we'll get that all back together. And we'll keep our fingers crossed that the replacement carburetor serves our purposes. All right, I think it's time to see if we can get this guy up and running. We have the new battery, new solenoid, full engine maintenance, including a new carburetor, and we're going to see if it's willing to cooperate with us. I'm going to cheat with a little starting fluid because there's no gas in the carburetor bowl yet. Got a new filter there, so fuel system's totally dry, so I'm going to cheat a little bit with the starting fluid. And then we'll see how it runs. Alright. It wants to. Don't think we got any fuel there yet. Yeah, I don't know why it's not getting fuel. I verified the functionality of this pump. It was working. I think we'll get it. Patience. Alright, now I am asking again about that fuel pump. Make sure it is working. Hold on. Alright, welcome back. It's been a few days since we recorded that last segment, and I've had to put this little project on the back burner for some other priorities. But, you know, last time I was working on this, I got very frustrated. I could not get any fuel flow. Couldn't get any fuel flow to the carburetor. Now it's got a pump. And I tried a few things. I replaced that pump with a known good pump, and that still didn't work, so I really didn't think it was the pump. I verified that our pulsing action is pulsing from the crankcase. I ended up trying a new fuel filter. I put in new fuel lines from the carburetor all the way back to the tank. Since then, I've gotten rid of the old fuel because I don't know how old it was. Got fresh ethanol-free fuel in there. I got it to run eventually. Disconnected this hose that goes to the carburetor, and I used a syringe to fill the carburetor bowl, so at least we had some fuel in the bowl to get things going. And then it was running. It wasn't running great. So anyway, at that point, that's when we put it on hold. So I'm ready to give this a try again and see if it wants to cooperate. And, you know, so I turn the camera back on, and you're here to experience it with me. And we'll see what happens. Choke. Key. Some serious smoke, and then it died out on me when I lowered the throttle. So I don't feel confident that we're really getting good fuel flow there. or that carburetor's not doing a good job, our aftermarket carburetor. So I'm not quite sure. Let's see if it starts again. Wants to, but I'm afraid what we did is burn through that fuel in the carburetor bowl, but we're not getting fuel flow through the pump. That's what I'm afraid is going on here. All right, my friends. I've narrowed it down to 1 or 2 issues that we've still yet to resolve on this CUB Cadet with zero turn with the Kawasaki, and I've had other projects, so this one I put on the back burner. Also, it was driving me crazy. I was kind of frustrated, so it's good to let it sit for a while. But I don't know if I told you this in a previous clip, but I discovered that the crankcase was flooding with gasoline. So what the heck is the needle and seat in the carburetor not holding? And I had that carburetor off a couple of times to check it out. And as far as I can see, the needle and seat and float is working just fine. And then I had an epiphany. A moment where I realized that that stinking fuel pump might be bad and leaking gasoline back through the pulse line, back to the crankcase. And that's a possibility. So I just replaced that fuel pump. Hopefully this one's going to work for us better. And the other problem was that it was just running horribly. Even though it was running, it's like flooding itself out, smoking like crazy. I don't know if those are one and the same problem or if I'm dealing with 2 problems. But if I can get that fuel pump issue resolved, now we're going to try and start it up and see how it runs. It still might run horribly, and we have something else yet to address. So I'm going to push it outside. In case it does go smoking like crazy, we'll at least be outdoors. So we'll start it up out there. Way better than it was. It doesn't sound great to me. I don't know if it's maybe that aftermarket carburetor is just not doing a great job, but looks like our fuel flow problem is resolved with the new pump. We're not smoking anymore. That is much improved over what we were dealing with before. Well, I think the only step remaining for this CUB Cadet zero turn is to get rid of this golf cart tire and get the right wheel that matches this guy back in place. And guess what? Here it is. So here's the old wheel and tire. Talked to the owner. He said, oh, I've got the old wheel. Okay, then we just need to replace this tire. He's got a big gash in the sidewall. It's kind of a different size that I couldn't find easily. Eventually I did, 20 by 12-8. And I finally found one online, and here it is, 2012-8. So I'm going to try to mount that puppy right up here with my Pittsburgh Harbor Freight mini tire changer. I am not going to film that. You know why? Because it might be a bit of a fight, and I'm afraid I'd embarrass myself on video. But I'm going to do it somehow. I'm going to win. We're going to do this. and then this project will be done. So I will show you that in just a bit. Okay, that's it. I got the new tire mounted and ready to go. It wasn't too terribly difficult getting the old tire off the rim or getting the new tire on the rim, although it's a bit of a fight, but we managed. The hardest part was getting the tire to seat and hold air. I had to use a couple of ratcheting straps around to squeeze it, and it still was struggling. And you know what I decided to do? I decided to remove the stem, remove the inner part of the valve stem, turn up the pressure on my air compressor, and then use this nozzle and get a big amount of air at one time in there, and that got it to expand and seat. And so it's all put back together now, and we can get rid of this undersized golf cart tire that was inappropriate from the get-go. And we can get this guy up on there. That's good. You know, I'm gonna get a little never sees onto those lugs before I continue, and then now got all my hardware here. We'll put it all up on there, and I had to get some new nuts because we were missing some of them. So, but we're all set to go now. That's it, and then this zero turn will be ready to take out to the grass for our final test and ship it, baby. It's time to get this thing out of here. All right, thank you for watching this video. It's probably kind of a long one because I had a lot of issues to work through on this CUB Cadet zero turn. But as you just saw, it's running great. It sounds great. I'm really happy with the way it turned out in spite of the challenges and frustrations along the way. You might have also been able to tell that I don't have a lot of experience driving a zero turn, so it takes a little getting used to. But I did like it. It was fun. Your comments and questions are always appreciated in the discussion below at the bottom of the video, and I do appreciate that. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Good luck to you with your CUB Cadet zero turns or whatever other small engine project you've got going on. Have fun with it, and remember, as I always like to say, only you can put the do in the do-it-yourself. I'll see you on the next video. Bye.